what I wanted to talk about is how to improve customer engagement and how to drive revenues up using this concept of SME ecosystem, because we all know that SMEs, when it comes to Europe, they account for 99% of businesses. So all of those small companies, they represent 99% of businesses in the European Union. At the same time, they account for more than 50% of Europe's GDP. So this is quite an impressive figure, especially taking into account that those companies are often one-person companies or employing just a couple of people. But what we have seen on the market that mostly those SME clients are underserved, because what happens is that they are not as profitable as corporate clients per one single entity, yet they have many more requirements than standard retail clients, and they require more service, they require more attendance. From what we could see from your presentation, is that banks are already creating those ecosystems to attract and retain the SME clients on the examples of ING, mBank, or OTP, right? So this is a center where the bank becomes the center of, let's say, this attention for the clients. And the banks are providing services like accounting, like e-invoicing, right? All of those services, they can be provided by the bank if it has appropriate infrastructure. But unfortunately, not every bank is in the position to do so. Like, you know, that ING is one of the most progressive banks, mBank also in Poland, one of the banks that were driving this digital transformation. But not every bank can actually implement such an ecosystem in an easy way, because what we have observed is that most banks that have digitalized at the beginning of 21st century, they were doing their transformation, the first wave of digital transformation, using this approach when there were not that many applications available. And for each, let's say, use case, for each process, they usually had this separate application that would be served to the clients, together forming this not so coherent user experience. So the systems, they were not connected together because their main aim was to automate the back office. And the main aim of this first wave of digital transformation was, first of all, to start this offering of those products online so that the clients could access them online. But mostly it was for the banks in order to increase the efficiency of processes and in order to reduce costs, right? So mostly it was about maintaining status quo when it comes to products, but going digital. And I think you already know where maintaining status quo goes, because this is something that will not allow you to expand, that will not allow you to digitally enhance your offering. And this is what happened with many of those banks, right? That cannot transform in agile way right now, because they have those monolithic solutions still working in the backend, not communicating with each other that well. And what's more is that parts of those solutions, they are not ready for evolution, right? So very resistant to changes. Those systems, they cannot be maintained easily, they cannot be enhanced easily. But with banks such as ING, we see that there is a second wave of digital transformation coming. And this second wave is actually about those composable banking platforms, which can be used to create ecosystems. Just a reminder, right? When we are talking about composable platform or a composable business in general, it's a kind of business where if you want to deliver new digital capabilities, you don't need to build everything from scratch as a vertical, but you can reuse existing components, and having APIs that those components expose, you can connect them together in order to provide a new process, in order to provide new capability. And this composable approach is something that will allow banks to expand, because we already see those trends happening in the market, where banks traditionally being seen as those specialists, where their brand was highly visible, they were mostly focusing on banking products, right now have the possibility to go into other ventures, into other areas of the market. Now, Celent has estimated that, for example, the so-called marketplaces, so ecosystems where you can have multiple services, will be worth between 25 and 50 billion US dollars by 2030. But what's even more interesting is that if banks goes, let's say, on this level below, where they are not directly showcasing the brand, but they are providing capabilities in form of being suppliers of individual services or complete processes in a bank as a service fashion, those markets are expected to grow even more. So these are the areas that any modern bank should be considering when they are thinking about expansion, when they are thinking about creating those ecosystems, whether they are those kinds of marketplaces where everything is provided under the umbrella of the bank's brand, or where those services are provided underneath, let's say, in form of APIs that can be used by other partners. But generally, when we are talking about an ecosystem transformation, we are thinking about bank as becoming this kind of a platform that, apart from transactional capabilities that are usually present already, the bank is delivering those value-added services like accounting, like electronic shop. We have seen those examples, and on the other hand, the bank has the capability to expose the APIs to third parties in order to be able to connect them to this wider ecosystem by becoming this provider of banking as a service processes. So, in this context, right, what can we do to increase the engagement of customers? And this starts with the basics, right? This is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need to ensure that the basics are there. So what clients need, of course, is safe and convenient environment for conducting business, meaning usually a digital banking platform with the bank being this source of trust, this institution that provides safety, that ensures that the clients are in good hands. But when we are thinking about banking products, when we are talking about them, we must ensure that they are designed in such a way that they are easily consumable, because raw products are not enough. When you are providing payments, when you are providing deposits, when you are providing different financing products, right? This is not enough. They have to be prepared in such a way for the users to be easily consumable so that they can easily integrate them into their day-to-day life. So apart from providing the safety and convenience, what needs to be present is that the clients need to have full information that is necessary for them to make good business decisions, meaning data aggregation from multiple banking, non-banking sources can be an example of that. And just like with the ecosystems that we have seen for ING or for mBank, right? Integrating data from ERP systems or providing electronic shop capabilities, this is something that will help clients to manage their finances in a much easier way. So it takes away the burden that they would need to otherwise exert some additional force in order to integrate the data from, for example, from the ERP system, from the sales, from the electronic shop. If you can integrate this into the digital banking platform, this will allow clients to make much better decisions because they will have full overview on their finances. For example, the invoices that they will have to pay, the invoices that will be coming to the payments that will be coming to their accounts, the sales from electronic shop, allowing for example, much better forecasting, thus allowing the clients to make much better decisions. Now, the first step is the ability to take action, because having information is usually not enough. What happens, right, if the client already had the information but still would need to log in, for example, to an external solution to actually make use of this information? So the next step when it comes to engaging clients is giving them the capabilities to actually pursue all of their goals, fulfill their goals, using, again, usually the same platform, right? This is to guarantee this very good user experience. So, for example, if you have payments such as receivables, the clients would benefit from having access to different facilities related to those receivables, like, for example, ability to insure the particular incoming invoice, or ability to request advance payment, request, for example, invoice discounting. So these are the possibilities that an ecosystem could give the clients in order to make it much easier for them to operate in this financial world. So instead of just showing them what will be the invoices, if they are, for example, short on money, if they want to improve liquidity, why not connect to a factoring partner which would serve them with invoice discounting so that they could improve their liquidity? And on top of that, right, since we are able in this case to gather much more information about how those SMEs are functioning, what are the problems they are facing, with the use of predictive analytics, with the use of some kind of rule engines or even AI, What would be possible is offering this kind of non-trivial advice. So let's say the system based on the invoices, based on how we were, what is the history of payments from a particular counterparty, is suggesting, okay, there might be a problem, right? One of the counterparties was paying late for the last 3 months, and the delay is now up to 12 days. So this is something that has changed over the last couple of days. And the system could suggest, right, that this could indicate that the financial situation of the counterparty is worsening. So maybe we should do something about it, right? And in this case, the system is suggesting solutions. Maybe the client should, for example, ask for insurance for this particular invoice to be paid. Maybe the client would like to access invoice discounting in order to avoid any liquidity issues. So in this way, the system becomes this kind of a trusted advisor for SMEs, not only showing them what is their current financial situation, not only allowing them to take action, but also proactively helping them run their business and avoid any potential pitfalls that they may face in the future. But this is just relating to directly to banking products. What can be an enhancement to this is this multidimensional engagement model. So not only concerning the banking products, but covering ERP integration, covering some loyalty schemes, covering connecting to factoring, supply chain financing, and many other services. The general idea of this engagement model is that with an ecosystem approach, you can connect various normally separate services into one platform so that the clients would benefit from accessing all of those products and all of those services in a seamless way. So in other words, they wouldn't need to search for them in different places because everything would be provided by the bank. Now, there are also two additional ways of loyalizing those SMEs so that they stay the clients of your particular bank. One way is to use the standard loyalty programs. So in this case, you could, as bank, be providing those loyalty programs where the SMEs would be gathering points, which they would be able to exchange for some vouchers. They would be able to take part in some lotteries, get some cashbacks, price discounts, or better terms, right? So SMEs that are showing loyalty to the bank, that are long-term clients, that are actively using services, they could be rewarded with some additional promotions from the bank. But there is also other, I would say, more interesting way of loyalizing SMEs, and this is about SMEs actually
Oh,
operating the loyalty programs. So in this case, a bank could be this platform that is offering white label loyalty programs to SMEs, and let's imagine that we have an owner of a chain of coffee stores, and this owner would like to provide some kind of loyalty solution to their clients. But instead of collecting physical stamps, for example, he would like to provide it in a digital way. And this is where the bank could step in, right? Serving such a platform where the clients would be able to register their digital promotions. They would be able to run their loyalty programs. They would be able to manage different promotions to which the clients could sign, right? So this is a kind of software that can be delivered in the software as a service fashion, white label platform, so that the SMEs could customize it. For example, importing their logo so that it would be distinguishable on the whole marketplace. And at the same time, the SMEs, right, since they are small companies, they don't have a very large, they often even have an IT department at all. The infrastructure and everything would be provided by the bank in this case. So we have those two types of loyalty where SMEs can be these clients of loyalty programs for the bank, or they could be the beneficiaries of the loyalty platform that is run on the bank, being the operators for their clients. So this is something that would allow SME clients to engage their clients, and in this way, making those SMEs more engaged with the bank. Let's talk about unlocking some new revenue streams. Because with those additional data sources, apart from current and planned transactions, things that are normally visible in standard digital banking platforms, we could get data from other banks through PSD2 APIs. We could get the data about current and future invoices from ERP systems, or even more data from loyalty programs, more data from factoring solutions that are connected. In other words, we would be able to know much more about the clients than a standard bank would. And based on this, we could offer some here and now offers. So something that's relevant to a particular client at this time. For example, this one with improving liquidity when we see some trouble with the counterparty that is not paying invoices. We could be offering some retention promotions, like when we see that the client is about to leave, for example, moving his assets to another bank. We could offer much more effective cross-sell thanks to knowing the client's particular situation and being able to suggest products at the right time. And what's also possible is much more personalized communication that is related to handling the client, giving the client this additional feeling that he is well taken care of by his bank. So, in other words, not making the client feel underserved. So, this is one of the first options, right? An extension to revenue streams where you could increase the cross sell based on much more knowledge that you would have about the clients. Now, the second option is to actually utilize the power of marketplace. You know, the most known, well-known marketplaces like Apple's App Stores, Uber, Airbnb. None of them are providing, let's say, the services by themselves. Instead, what they are doing is they are connecting the producers and consumers of the service. And this is also something that bank could do in form of this marketplace, right, as a manifestation of this ecosystem, where those different services can be accessed by the clients, and the bank is this trusted intermediary, like for example for ERP connections. So this would give the banks the ability to have subscription and partnership fees, which can be used to extend the revenue streams. Now, the last option is about going below. It's about exposing APIs. And this is something that tech companies have been doing for a very long time. For example, Jeff Bezos, more than 20 years ago, he said that for each capability that is developed at Amazon, it needs to have an API, right? It needs to be externalizable. So at some point, it could be launched potentially to the whole wide world. And this is something that we see happening with banks as well. So more and more banks are exposing those API so that they can attract partners like maybe ERP vendors who would want to embed some typically banking customer journeys, like for example, opening an account, making a transfer straight into their ERP systems. And this is what APIs actually enable you to do. So when we are talking about banking as a platform, this layer of APIs that is there underneath would allow the banks to have some additional revenue streams in form of, for example, service fees. So when you have an API, for each API call that actually you expose as a bank, you can take some additional fees in order to enable this more of a widespread embedded finance economy. So to sum it up, right, the ecosystem approach, it changes the standard revenue model of the banks. We get to keep, right, the standard transactional banking at the base, so it stays as is. But on top of that, you can have more engagement thanks to this loyalty programs, thanks to those additional solutions. Essentially, the bank becoming this one-stop shop for the clients, which will increase retention and increase acquisition of new clients thanks to this attractive offer. Then those additional services offered in the marketplace, they can be offering some additional revenue streams. And on top of that, we have the APIs that can be used by fintech partners in order to further increase the revenues, in order to further increase the attractiveness of the platform as well. And I wanted to show you one case study because this is something that we are currently building with one of the leading banks in Europe. They came to us, and what they wanted to do is they wanted to create an ecosystem that was aimed at loyalization of the smallest clients, small office, home office, usually one person, two people companies. But they didn't want to replace their existing digital banking solution. And they learned that what clients want is actually that each of those small clients is just like a corporation, but on a much smaller scale. So they need to lease equipment, they need to lease cars, they need to do accounting, they need to apply for insurance, maybe some medical insurance as well. They do investments, they exchange money, etc. So there are a lot of needs that each of those small entrepreneurs needs to take care of. And what they found when they were doing this research is that in the first place, of course, that those clients go to Google, which leads them to one of the fintechs. And they decided, okay, so we actually want to persuade them to go to the bank instead. And what they are currently doing is they are implementing this huge ecosystem of value-added services, meaning that they want to truly become this one-stop shop, but they didn't want to, let's say, just like in cases of ING, just like in cases of OTP, right? They had a very well functioning transactional banking platform. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to deliver those capabilities on top of existing platform and integrate it into it. So what were the results, right? First of all, they used as a backbone, they used our open platform, which is cloud-based. The platform itself was supposed to be based on microservices, elastic scaling in different business areas, no maintenance breaks, so ability for those clients to access it 24/7. And what was very important was this ability to also integrate with fintechs in order to to provide some additional value to their clients instead of relying just on what the bank would develop internally. But generally, the approach that they took is that they wanted to use our platform as a backbone, and on top of that, they started developing their own microservices and micro frontends in order to serve those clients. So it started with a couple of teams that were initiated on the client side, and they started when from the first step, they started developing those microservices. They started developing those capabilities by themselves because they had done extensive research what the clients would do, but they still didn't have the foundation, they didn't have the framework to run those microservices. That's why they started this cooperation with us, where we were able to develop, we are able to deliver the platform for them that they could use to connect their existing systems. And on top of that, those teams could be developing those different microservices in parallel, thus allowing the bank to go through this architectural change from monolithic systems to microservice-based composable architectures. Okay, so to summarize, right, when we are talking about ecosystems, when we are talking about the value that they can deliver to the clients, right, it's just like Steve Jobs says, right? A lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them. So a very well implemented ecosystem will be a magnet for SME clients. But in order to accomplish that, right, what needs to happen is you need to have a very robust digital banking platform. Because when we are talking about modern banking development, when we are talking about banks becoming more like fintechs, digital platform is actually a key component because it is something that connects all of those things together. It needs to be positioned in the, let's say, at the confluence of those forces that are driving digitalization. So we have the bank's IT who want to take more and more responsibility of the existing platforms, and this is natural because IT is more closely cooperating with business. Business is driving the direction, and IT being an irreplaceable part of this digital revolution. On the other hand, we have banking software vendors such as ourselves who are able to contribute some pieces to this puzzle. And on top of that, we have fintech solutions, which banks would often integrate into such platforms because it doesn't make economical sense to introduce such niche solutions that fintechs are often offering from scratch, to build it from the bottom. That's why such a platform needs to integrate this in order for the banks to be able to effectively engage SMEs and to prepare for the future, right? Because this is a kind of a gateway solution that allows the banks to actually expand in any direction they want, still ensuring that they do not miss any opportunities that the future gives. And this is also something that we can help you with. But thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you about the transformation of digital ecosystems.
Thank you very much, Maciej. And